Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video. I'm a little bit under the weather today, but that's not going to stop me and thee from having the football conversation I feel like we need to have, as we hate to reflect on some people on their international duty, doing their things, increasing their value, stamping down how important it is to get them a new contract, whilst others are, you'll see. But I can imagine those that's actually clicked on today's video is a bit more of the hardcore audience, so you'll recognise this type of video as we used to do it back in the day. But again, there is players that are performing exceptionally well, increasing their value, strengthening this club. And again, the latter is the other side of that. So I wanted to talk about it right here. So if you don't mind hitting the like button, that'd be greatly appreciated to help other people find the channel. If you haven't done so already, like 52% of our regular audience hasn't hit that subscribe button. If you didn't mind doing that, I'd be greatly appreciated. So we're trying to reach 70k before the end of the season, which ridiculous to say out loud, but we are actually getting closer. But let's go ahead and dive into the international roundup then, shall we? And I think we'll start off closer to home and work our way through the old players, and that means we start off with the old home nation, if you will, and that is none other than Scotland. Now, Scotland had two players called up from the Rangers perspective, Liam Kelly and John Souttar. Now, at the under-21s level, there was, of course, Bailey Rice, but, you know, we don't really dive too deep into that. If you're interested in how Scotland under-21s done and Bailey Rice done, further, he came off the bench in a 2-0 win, versus Republic of Ireland, keeping a clean sheet, defending the area, getting a very good word of mouth. Then he went ahead and got a start in the next game. Scotland went down to 10 men and Scotland got absolutely embarrassed 5-1. But that's maybe mentally preparing Bailey for what it's like to play for the big squad. That embarrassment seemingly is the thing these days. But it's certainly no Big Soapy's fault, and he wasn't responsible for that embarrassment. Nana, I think if you actually look at it from an individual basis rather than an overall collection of failure that it was during the international break, if you're looking from individually, I'd actually say Big Soapy played pretty damn well, especially in the first game where I thought he was great. You know what I mean? The 1-0 win away in Greece, he was needed in the air, he was on the ground, a couple big blocks, couple big challenges, he was dominating, probably continued his form that we've seen over the European games and in Celtic going in to this international break. He was right up there. Then Sunday came and it all went a wee bit wrong as Scotland got absolutely scanted 3-0. That 1-0 advantage they fought so hard to get away from him just handed right over to the opposition as they went ahead and got relegated. But again, how did Soapy play? Was he great? Was he good? Was he awful? No, I'd say he's probably a wee bit in between. Nowhere near as good as he was on Thursday, but everything around him was completely on fire and there was holes and gaps everywhere that Greece feasted on. And honestly, it was a shambolic overall performance from Scotland. But again, Soapy was pretty much what you can expect for him, and honestly, he stopped it for being 4-0 as he had to clear one off the line, so we can't blame him. He actually stopped it for being more embarrassing than it already was. Now, I know not too many people's interested in my opinions and my thoughts on Scotland, but it hates itself to death, you know what I mean? It's almost imposter syndrome, if you want, because they qualified for 2 tournaments under Stevie Clarke. That's almost made him bulletproof to any criticism and any negativity, despite him being one of the main reasons one of the most talented Scotland squads in at least 20-25 years continues to embarrass itself. We qualified for 2 tournaments. It's never ever been easier to qualify for tournaments, right? Every tournament, every single one you can think of has been expanded to increase the amount of teams that come in, and there's actually been tournaments created in order to help teams qualify for these competitions, right? So I'm not wanting to hear, oh, he qualified for 2 tournaments. What did he do when he got Scotland to the dance? Broke records for being best losers at each and every single one. And that's when I talk about imposter syndrome. That's when I talk about hating itself to death, that people kind of take a step away and look at the only problem that's in and around the national team these days is the man in the dugout. He picks his diddy pals, whether they're playing week in and week out for their club. He plays people out of position so he can play his pals, and he's scared to death to start young talented players. And even when I like say Lennon Miller comes out here finally being picked 18 months after he should have been talking about he wants to be the best player for Scotland, that's beat down by everybody because we didn't want players to inspire to be the best. We didn't want that. We just want people to toe the line. There's a rotten core to Scotland, and I think a lot of that starts with Stevie Clarke, and I'd have his arse out of job, but I'd have done that at the Euros a long time ago. 5 at the back, people out of position, absolutely rotten tactical stuff. And again, he's got more advantages than any other Scotland managers ever had. And what's he doing, mate? But don't worry, I am going to move on. And as you notice, we only spoke about John Souttar during the entire thing, as Liam Kelly was behind the corpse that was Craig Gordon. 5 shots by you, Craig. Brilliant, thanks for that. Pals act, ladies and gentlemen. But we move on from Scotland, then we take a little short trip over to Northern Ireland to go ahead and speak about young Ross McCausland and young Mason Munn. Now, Mason Munn was called up like Bailey Rice for the under-21 squad. He remained an unused substitute in their first game before going ahead and starting and keeping a clean sheet in his second, continuing his development. Ross, however, continues to stagnate. As Ross's career for the international side is very similar to his career these days, at the club you never really see him. He was actually an unused substitute in both games for Northern Ireland, one of them being the draw, obviously, before going ahead and getting absolutely scanted 5-1 by Sweden. So yeah, not much to break down and not much to speak about. Mason Munn got more game time, and that was at the under-21s level. So we moved down a bit. Yeah, doing a bit and a wee bit more to the right as we go ahead and speak about Wales now, as we went ahead and had 2 players called up for the main squad of Wales, one of them being Tommy Lawrence and the other one being Rabbi Matondo. We'll start off with the first rather than the latter, because the latter's going to take us a wee bit longer. But Tom Lawrence was called up to even the shock and surprise of himself after having a fallout with Page, but he was called up. Did he get any game time? Nah. Ladies and gentlemen, he was an unused substitute in both games, but considering what he spoke about and what the past, maybe it was just good to also be back in and amongst the Welsh setup, that eventually maybe he'll get back to playing some football. But speaking of some football, it does take us to Mr. Rabbi Matondo, who came off the bench in the 86th minute round, about that mark in the first game for Wales, and went ahead and burst the back in it with a beautiful tidy finish that buried it, grabbing his first international goal. We love to see that. Rabbi adding a couple more pounds, or at least some interest. And it's funny when you look at Rabbi Matondo, right? Because I look at that goal for Wales, and I look at that moment, even in his second game, where he did come off the bench. He never scored of that, but he was bright, and he ended up getting another draw for Wales right then and there. I'm hoping these types of performances, that spark of getting his first international goal, can spark this guy back into life, you know what I mean? Because we've not heard of him. How is he doing on his loan? Remember when he scored on his debut, and everyone who was anyone was coming out and saying, see what I mean, it's the fans' fault, we're too negative, it's this, we're holding the bag back. Has anybody heard of him since? Nah. Do you know why? Because he's back to being absolutely barking, and that's in the second division in Germany, ladies and gentlemen. Right, so I can only hope this goal in Wales sparks him into life to go on a wee bit a run now and get a wee bit of confidence to at least do something in the second division of German football, to get some sort of interest in him. And that's how I hope, and that's what I pray goes on to the rest of the season. Rabbi takes a successful trip to Wales, back to Germany, starts playing well enough that somebody wants to spend some money and get that laddie off the old wage bill. But that's Scotland, that's Northern Ireland, and that is Wales. Home nations are done. And it's been mixed, to say the very, very least, but don't worry, we're building and we're getting closer and closer to the main talking points. But let's take a wee trip over to Romania then, shall we, as Hagi didn't start, surprisingly, for his country in the very first game for Romania. However, he did come off the bench at half-time and actually was involved in a couple of things, went very close with a shot, and actually had the ball in his hands to take a penalty kick, as Romania was given a penalty kick, or were expecting one after a very, very lengthy VAR check. But despite the ball coming there and hitting the boy right on the arm as it came down for a cross, somehow, some way, VAR overturned that. Had you got the ball, took out his hands, there was no penalty on that day. However, in the very next game, he went ahead and got his penalty kick, ladies and gentlemen, as you can never truly deny a Rangers player, whether they're playing for the club or in their international scene, as Romania ran all over the likes of San Marino, where, yes, me, you and 5 of our pals that we used to play sevens way back in the day could probably give San Marino a game for at least 7 to 8 minutes. But again, you can only ever beat what's in front of you. Romania did that. Hagi was great, and it's another very strong performance for his international side. Grabbing another goal, be involved in others, and just sort of doing Hagi things when he's played in that role. He's actually playing off the left in the second game versus San Marino and looked very, very dangerous as well. And speaking of dangerous, you know where we're going next, ladies and gentlemen. We have to talk about none other than the man that's been dangerous pretty much every time he touches the ball for us all season long. That is our boy, Cerny, who was easily my most nervous player to watch and tune in and keep up to date with during the international break. Not because I was worried about this going wrong or him embarrassing himself. And I know he's a very, very good player, but he's tired. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, when he's ran his race over the last couple of weeks and I just wanted them to get a wee bit a break, so I was looking and paying attention to everything, watching every little thing I could regarding Cerny and really, really tender hooks. But thankfully, despite playing 80 minutes in both games for Czech Republic, he is coming back to Rangers fully confidence, fully belief after playing well in the first game, getting 80 minutes. Again, no scoring on that day. We came very, very close, but going ahead and bursting the back of net in his second match with an absolute screamer versus Gibraltar. Very Rangers-esque, if you will, in terms of what we've seen all season. Kick it to Cerny and let Cerny cut inside and rip a shot. He took that confidence. He took another massive thing, and we're talking about people getting their increasing the value of the club, strengthening this and everything like that. Well, Cerny is now scoring again on international duty. Cerny continues to play well in international duty, considering how he's played for us all season long. My question to anyone that's still currently watching today's video: can we even afford Cerny next season? Genuinely, the way he's playing for us and now he's doing it at the international scene, can we? Would you spend it? Let me know. I really, really like him, but again, the last couple people we've brought in on loan I've really, really liked, and they've went on and moved elsewhere. So could it be another case of never fall in love with a loan player? Couple months we'll go ahead and find out. But speaking of love, let's go ahead and talk about the opposite then, shall we? Because we spoke back-to-back good performances. Let's go ahead and talk about the gutter then, shall we? And unfortunately that does mean we need to talk about Barjami, who went ahead and played for Albania versus England, which again was always going to be a very, very tough ask, especially Tuchel's first game. England is what it is, you know what I mean? They're dominating, they win a lot of games. It was a hard ask for Barjami, but even the biggest, staunchest defenders, Barjami is sitting here looking at this lad asking what the hell is went ahead and happened to him, you know what I mean? Because for a lot of these types of videos, and I used to do this in the past, I search their name, I translate a lot just to see what the fans are feeling, right? Because I can watch something, I can see a clip, I can see a game, I can do that, but I want to know the fans that eat, sleep and breathe, whether it is their club or whether it is that I want to know how they're talking, because fans will tell you everything you need to know. And Albania fans were completely miffed at the way Barjami went ahead and played and performed this game, saying he looks a shadow of himself and what's wrong with him, what's wrong with him. Exactly, Albania fans, we don't know what's going on. And even now his staunchest defenders are sitting saying what the hell is went to happen to him, right? He was subbed off after about 68th minute with one nutmeg to talk about. A nutmeg. And then in the second game for Albania, where I was really, really hoping versus Moldova, he would be able to get on the park, get a bit of confidence and maybe spark himself into life. He played that badly in his first game versus England, where he got a start. He miffed and confused so many people. He was an unused substitute in the second game. Ladies and gentlemen, that tells you there. That's talking about a guy that's on his way down and he's just gone further at the international side. And it's another question I want to ask each and every single person that's currently watching in. What the hell is happening to Barjami, right? We have been asking for weeks, months. The Albania fans are now asking every single person, is this a good player going through a bad period that every good player certainly goes through, and even average players go through really bad periods? Or is Barjami going to be another very, very obvious case of a good player that comes to Rangers and he can't handle the expectations and the pressure and the shirt just bees a little bit too heavy? Is he another casualty of needing to perform every week and needing to play under the goldfish bowl that is playing for Glasgow Rangers? You can let me know down in the comments section below. There's something clearly wrong with the laddie. I hope he does get back to his best, as he showed signs early on in his Rangers career, but he's struggling for club, and now he's struggling for his international side, which was his bread and butter and where he's made his name over the last year or two. So very curious to what you think needs to happen with Barjami, and what the hell has gone wrong. Now, spoiler alert for the rest of the video, but that was the worst performing player in the international side, which I imagine if we had put a pound on that would probably win 8 pence back, because we probably could have guessed it considering the way the season was gone. But let's talk about and jump up, where again this is nothing personal to Egeman. He was called up for the Moroccan side for the very first time, but there's no too much to actually talk about, so we can build up and we can heat up our way towards a certain Belgian that we need to talk about. But Egeman, went ahead and got his first call up for Morocco, played 8 minutes in his first game where Morocco turned it around and went ahead and won the game, and where I would love to say it was more Egeman drama and etc, etc, it wasn't his day on that day, as he certainly was involved in a couple wee things but didn't get too much involved. But Morocco were able to overcome and go ahead and win before he was an unused substitute in their very, very next game. But it was talked about heavily what this was for Egeman. It was an experience, bringing him in, getting to know, and letting the international staff see what he's all about, and they're talking very, very highly of him. So very encouraged by what's happened with Egeman. Obviously, playing for your country, getting involved in these camps puts a wee bit more value on your name, and it continues just this ascension and his quick ascension in the old football world that's been over the last 18 months. Moving on from Morocco, however, we're going to go to Ivory Coast, and that means we need to keep up to date with our boy Mo Diamandi, who probably had his most Mo Diamandi game you could possibly have for the Ivory Coast. Now, like Egeman, ironically, he only played 8 minutes in the very first game, as Ivory Coast went ahead and won their African Cup Nations qualifier, won frickin' nothing, before going ahead and starting his next game, where he played about 65-67 minutes in the old football before he trundled off the park. Thankfully with no injuries, and thankfully with no knocks, but just as usual Diamandi fashion. Nice turns, nice wee build-up play, but he was blowing out his arse around about the 70th minute, so he was substituted off. So nothing too big to talk about from Mo Diamandi, apart from the fact that he was inches away from scoring, which would have been great to talk about right here. But it was a Mo Diamandi game, you know what we're talking about. That's a lot of names fired your way, that's a lot of names broken down. Well, let's continue it then, shall we, as we've been building towards the best, and we've truly saved the best for last right here, and that is none other than our boy Nico Raskin, who, sitting here being a Raskin fanboy for years and needing to take a lot of flack and take a lot of dirt chut at the name because it looked like it was going wrong, you know what I mean? Clement never fancied him, he was going to do this, he was just Cantwell's wee pal, he's Cantwell's wee pal. We had to wait a long time, as did the wee man, but now he is one of the first names in the team sheet for the club. And ladies and gentlemen, talk about grasping and grabbing your opportunity when it presents itself. But Raskin, by all accounts, has went ahead and done that now for the likes of Belgium. Just like a couple names we've already mentioned, his first start for his international side was a wee substitute appearance, right? Wee 10 minutes here, wee 12 minutes here, and they were 3-1 down to Ukraine. He came in and he solidified the midfield, actually put in a challenge, won a couple tackles, and added a bit of presence in the middle of the park for Belgium that wasn't there, as they were absolutely demolished by Ukraine. Again, the damage was already done before Nico came on the park, but Nico made such an impact and such a difference into a midfield that was bleeding counter attacks. He went ahead and got a start in his very, very next game. And when I say to you this game could not went any better for wee Nico, it's no me being a wee fanboy or anything like that. He's in the middle of the park with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, and you know who got a standing ovation getting substituted off the park? It was wee Raskin in the 88th minute, because his presence in there, his ability to intercept, his tackle, his work rate, his pit bull mentality was so badly lacking in Belgium. This guy's played 1 in a 10th game, and the entire country, Belgium, has fell in love with the lad, and they didn't want to see him leave the international setup any time soon. That's incredible. And honestly, see, when I was sitting there, just like the other names that I mentioned, just putting it in there and putting in the translate and clicking on every single big account, every media account, every person watching that Belgian game, just sing the praises of that lad. I was standing there just like a proud da, smiling from ear to ear, translating every single one with a massive smile on the nasher. And that is what the international break is all about. But if you've stayed with me all the way through what is a very unusual video to have on the channel these days, the biggest and best question I want to ask each and every single one of you is, what do we do with Raskin? We asked it for Barjami, but it's a completely different way, right? Because we surely need to offer this lad a new contract extension, because not only is he a vital cog in our machine, but now internationally, look at the praise Just search his name and have a look at the types of people that's talking about this laddie all over the place, right? So he's only got 2 years left his contract, so we can't run that to next year and then only get him a year's worth of value. That's going to kill any type of potential big money move for Big Raskin. People will just wait that out and nab him for free. But we are also pending a takeover, so they're going to do that the new, or they're going to wait for the new owner. So that's the conversation. Do we give Nico Raskin a contract extension? I think if we decide not to and an agreement cannot be reached, then as much as this pains me, he must go this summer whilst his product is as hot as it currently is, ladies and gentlemen, with the likes of the names that's talking about him and all the praise that he's getting with 2 years left. The summer is the time you pull the trigger and sell him if there's interest in him, which I can imagine the way he's been playing for club and now country, there will be. So big conversation, and I think Raskin's going to dominate a lot of what our summer could potentially look like. Either we're giving him a contract extension, which surely somebody's brought up, or we're selling him before he only has a year left on his old contract. But I'm chucking that one to you. What the hell do you do? And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I know not too many people really care about international football, but I care about this club, and the people that are representing their countries during the last 2 weeks could have a big say on the future and the strength of this club. Both improvements as a player, but also getting some potential money added to this club by performing in the international scene. But that's my thoughts and opinions. That's International Roundup. Hopefully you've enjoyed it enough to be hitting that like button. If you don't enjoy it, don't hit the like button. I'll tell me you aren't interested in watching them, and I'll stop doing them, and we'll go back to not uploading them. But I just thought there were so many interesting storylines that I really wanted to talk about this international break. But that's us all done and dusted. I've been Siege Over 92. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you at the weekend. All the best, and bye-bye.